Welcome to Manage to Engage, the podcast from clearandopen.com, dedicated to the evolution of you because businesses grow when people do. Serving leaders, managers, and people who will be, helping you reach excellence in your work and achieve your personal goals at the same time. Sign up for the free course at clearandopen.com. You notice you're about to cut a corner serving a customer because it's probably good enough. You're starting to go down a small self-value road and see if you can just catch yourself once a day and say, you know what, in this moment, I'm going to come from the bigger place. Just do that once a day. Hi, it's Joseph, and thanks for tuning into Manage to Engage, the podcast from clearandopen.com. In the last episode, we reframed the self versus other problem as a conflict between your small self and your big self in one way, your ego-driven needs versus your soul-level values. Today, to finish this 4-part series, we go over an exercise that will help you self-manage your smaller self, leaving you more room for your values to express. I offer weekly member webcasts and teach live courses on clearandopen.com because I believe with the right tools, anyone can eliminate the people, money, and time problems holding them back in business. And I share parts of these webcasts and courses on this show because I want to help you too. If you're enjoying the show and learning from it, I'd love your feedback. If you're listening to the show on an Apple device, just open up the podcast app, click the podcast cover art, and click the link to leave a rating and review for the show. Thanks so much for listening. Now let's dive in. So the self versus other problem is fundamentally an illusion. And anytime you experience a self versus other issue, the thing to do is to look and reconnect with your soul level values and ask yourself if you're serving them. So if you have a boss who's put pressure on you about your levels of engagement or the quality of your work, it's immediately easy to put it on them. Oh, they're wanting something from me. I don't want to have to do this, or I don't know if I can, or I think it's good enough, but they don't. That's a self versus other problem. Reframe that and ask yourself, is there an opportunity here for me to come from one of my soul values in a deeper way? How am I bringing service to this? How am I bringing passion to this? How am I bringing love to this? And then it's a self versus self, small s, big S problem. That's one you have power over and you can't play victim to. See, self versus other, you can play victim to, especially if the other has more power than you. Oh, they're oppressing me. They're making me do something. Maybe, but they're inviting you into something. And how does that serve you? How does that serve your relationship with your soul values? And one really important thing related to this that I've been working on myself the last month or so, for me, I identified my soul level values are truth and love. And that's reflected in clear and open. Clear is true, open is love. That's sort of where that came from, a yin and yang sort of thing. So I identified that, and then the next step to look at is, what are the ways in which you express your soul values really well? And in what ways do you not? So those are the ones you could say, your mind says, well, those are what they are. But then try to, as objectively as you can, without judgment, look at the history of your actions as an observer and ask yourself, what's my life actually saying? What are my actions saying? And my small self really wanted to believe that I was expressing love and truth equally. But the observer in me saw, no, that's not really the case. And that was a little difficult at first. Not super difficult. I did a pretty good job staying in the observer and not judging it. And I saw pretty quickly that truth had a lot more room in my life than love did. So I started making a goal. This is what you do with it. See if there's a place, whether there's an imbalance in you or whether you feel like you just haven't been giving your soul values enough room in your life. Here's what you can do with it. look for a pivot point in your day. Once a day, just once. You'll probably do it more than once, but set a goal one time a day. Look for a pivot point where you're going down the road of a small self-value. You're reaching for the chocolate ice cream. You're in a conversation with someone and really needing to be right and making them wrong. Or you notice you're about to cut a corner serving a customer because it's probably good enough. You're starting to go down a small self-value road and see if you can just catch yourself once a day and say, you know what, in this moment, I'm going to come from the bigger place. Just do that once a day with one value. And it helps if you have a specific venue to do it in. You know, like a specific sort of circumstances, like talking to customers or writing emails or talking to your kids or your spouse or whatever. Wherever there's a area in your life that you feel like you need to work on, or wherever that imbalance may show up. And those pivot points become practices. Now you may think, well, just once a day, what's that going to do? In content, it may not do much, but what will happen, what I invite you to see if you experience, is what will happen is you'll experience that little bit of effort it takes in those moments rewards you tenfold. You'll like it. And then you'll want to do it more. It becomes kind of habit forming once you get over a hump a little bit. It also might flush up like oil does clear water. If you mix them together, they'll see the separation. It might flush up resistance you have to it. I don't want to voices. It's too hard voices. It's not worth it voices. So look for that too. A lot of people experience that in the beginning. It's kind of a rush, like, whoo, this is awesome. And then the resistance starts to come in and tries to shut you down, so you'll stop doing it. Because, the ultimate end of this is, if you practice this enough, it will precipitate a kind of death for the smaller self. The addict in us, the instant gratifier, the selfishness, who thinks that, without that chocolate ice cream, life has no meaning. I mean, that's really what an addict does of any kind. They're putting some meaning into the thing as a substitute for some greater meaning. I know a lot about chocolate, and I've found no meaning in it, and I've eaten a lot of it. Questions, comments about this? We just have a couple more minutes. Did I deliver? Have you solved the self versus other millennial problem? Makes sense.
Now I'm thinking back to something you brought up at the beginning, which I've heard a lot about in the news the last few days, which is the Israel-Palestine thing. And now I'm trying to think, okay, so what if all the people involved, at the top levels in these discussions or non-discussions, it sounds like they are, from those altruistic, values.
Yeah, where's that?
I mean, you have to.
Yeah, they're not coming from the bigger self.
Yeah.
If you got together leaders and historians and, Talmudic scholars with Arabic scholars, those peoples are so similar. They're more similar than different. Israel should be at war with Scandinavian people or something, Japanese people or something. They're pretty much the same.
Right. The differences are there are these lines that have been created that are relatively recent.
Yeah. Relatively recent story.
Yeah, of the people. And
yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like the lens which everyone views themselves, their group, however you define your group, whether it's your family or your country.
Yeah.
and what you think to be true about all of that. It's like that, just being able to penetrate that lens that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Because these truths are still there, that these people are more alike than they are different, but they've got these filters they're viewing the world through. And that's the hardest, where do you poke the holes in that? They have to do it themselves.
They have to, because that's the self versus self issue, right? There has to be a willingness to say, because both sides have some chocolate ice cream that they're wanting, and they're leaving behind soul level values, love, service, inclusion, that are in all of their religions, all religions involved, right? If you got them all together and said, what are your most important universal truths? The list would be the same, right? And then another way of working with this, I would say there, is okay, so let's begin some rounds of negotiation. And you tell me, each of you on either side of the table, what values you're going to attempt to come from. It's a place you come from. Can I come from that place? Can I come from love? Can I let love do the talking here? Can I get out of the way of service and let it guide my day? Can I let that happen? I really want some chocolate ice cream. Okay, I'll make you a deal. After dinner, we'll think about it, but not until then. That's self-management. Self-management, well, who's managing who? Big self, little self. And that choice is a moment-to-moment thing. And it takes strength, takes courage. But to me, what it takes the most of is just a willingness and an awareness and a willingness to really ask yourself, is the chocolate ice cream really nourishing for me? Thanks for listening to Manage to Engage, the Clear and Open podcast. Join us next week when you'll be a little bit closer to who you're destined to be. Until then, know that Clear and Open is dedicated to the evolution of you, because businesses grow when people do. Be sure to visit clearandopen.com for the latest tools, articles, and free resources to help you on your journey. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.